Thank you so much for coming. I know it's a very busy time. We really appreciate all your information. My name is Britt Ide. I'm on the board of directors of the Chamber of Commerce and serving as the interim CEO. This is an interesting, lots of fun stuff to talk about today. Really appreciate you're going to be here. Quick overview. Our goal is to use 1/3 of the time to present information and then 2/3 of the time to really engage in questions and answers and discussion in the community. I think that's the most valuable part. We're going to do a quick overview about the Destination Next survey, and then we'll get into housing, which is the majority of our point. And remember the Chamber, we represent our members, businesses all over our community, and West Yellowstone and Bozeman and all over. So we're not decision makers on this, but housing is obviously an important part and very important to our members, and we want to make sure we can help work towards solutions. So that's the goal tonight, is information, discussion, solutions. Positive, forward thinking. All right, so off we go. And we will do questions towards the end. Like I said, we'll wait till questions to the end. And yeah, again, thank you for being here. Okay, so really when I think about this, what is it we want to be when we grow up? Really thinking about the Big Sky community as a destination resort. The entire community, year-round destination. So the Chamber, with support from the Convention and Visitor Bureau funding, we did a survey. We had 79 responses across the community, pretty good cross-section, and we asked them about a lot of questions about our community as a destination. So for those of you who have eyes better than me, this is a really interesting chart because it talks about comparing us with other destinations, and they looked at cities and resorts and everything from, DC to Aspen. And what the interesting graphic they did here was, from left to right is developing destinations to established destinations. And then the vertical axis is from weak community engagement to strong community engagement. The good news is, of all of our folks, we all agree. So that's good. Some communities, you have people that are totally disagreeing on where the community is. So in general, we're still developing, not a surprise. Not very many people were here before 1972. And then we have a little bit on the weak community engagement side. And I clarified that because look around this room. It's not this kind of community engagement. We have very good community engagement from our folks here. Where we don't always have the greatest engagement is with our government officials because we're kind of out of sight, out of mind to some extent. So that's an area we have to work on. So there's the average versus U.S. average for communities. And this gives you a little bit about the different variables that go into that. So one of the things that really comes out of this is the need for a destination master tourism plan for our community. So what is that? It's an opportunity for us all to come together and come up with that plan, which is looking out the next 10 years. Looking at infrastructure, so many different things that play into that, and collaborating with other planning initiatives. Who's been to another planning initiative in our community in the last 2 months? Parks. We've got lots of awesome planning going on. So the idea is to collaborate, not to repeat or do too much. Okay, we're going to try to play this video. We'll see if it works. This is just a quick little clip about what a destination tourism master plan is and can be. This is from Vancouver, Canada. So obviously there's a little different. They're a city, not a resort town, but it gives you a nice sense of what this is and where we're going. If you don't get it, you can Google Vancouver Destination Master Plan and watch it yourself. It's 6 minutes. We're just going to watch the first 2 minutes. Has anybody been there and saw that whale in real life? I want to know, is that Legos? It looks like it's Legos. Is it?
Yeah, that kind of is big like.
Excellent. Okay, while it's loading, I have a question for you. How many of you do not live in Big Sky? 10%? How many of you, hold that up.
Coming out of the tourism master plan, we'll know where we're going because we'll set some future benchmarks and some shared end.
A tourism master plan is an opportunity for the public and the private sector to really come together, understand what is the opportunity, what are the issues for tourism in that destination, in that country, and to to talk. It really gives the destination the opportunity to step back and say, what do we want to be when we grow up?
A tourism master plan, particularly for a mature city like Vancouver, is quite a novelty. It's very important that it brings together an organization like Tourism Vancouver, who generates demand, along with the city, who actually have the responsibility for infrastructure to make sure that we can ensure we service that demand.
We've spoken to more than 150 stakeholders from the public and the private sector. We're surveying thousands and thousands of stakeholders and residents to understand their issues and what are their opportunities and the prioritization of those issues and opportunities. We've heard a number of interesting opportunities from our stakeholders during the Tourism Master Plan process. And a lot of the great ideas revolve around indoor activities that will allow our visitors in the first and the fourth quarter of the year to stay dry.
There's some parts of the year where there maybe aren't major events. It would be good to maybe put those in place, but they have to be ones that residents are going to celebrate and participate in at the same time as that they will draw and redraw at a later date the visitors.
Destinations around the world, ranging from Indonesia, South Africa, Russia, China, they are competing for the same tourists. And visitors are very well versed now in terms of the product quality, and the value.
That just gives you a quick overview of the concept. And as you know, the Big Sky Chamber, we also have the Visit Big Sky group, and we also have the Convention and Visitor Bureaus and the Visitor Center. So this is a project we're really excited about for the next year. We'll be talking more to you about it, but just want to give you a preview. And there's a lot of very interesting data from the survey we got, and then they've done the Destination Next group on what current tourists are looking for, much more experiential than in the past. So if you want more of that, we're happy to give it to you. We can talk more about that in the Q&A too. Would you please advance the slide? Thank you. Okay, so why do we need a master plan? Our whole community, as you know, is driven by tourism. We want to figure out how can we have smart, sustainable growth. It's really important as we keep going, as we're talking about housing and all the other stuff. And we want to make sure it's very inclusive for the planning process. Residences, small businesses, larger businesses, new people, longer time residents. And the plan is to we really want to focus on preserving the Big Sky culture. I think this is important to a lot of people. And it goes back to that, what the tourists are looking for too. Tourists are looking for an authentic experience where they're learning what it's like to be a person in Big Sky. That's kind of fun to share. So that's something to be thinking about as we go forward. So out of that survey came some of the highlights of the most important things to address. Number one, anyone shocked? Housing, workforce housing. Infrastructure, transportation, obviously a big one for us. And then the collaboration that we talked about before, looking bigger to regional collaboration. So that's just a quick overview of the Destination Next. It's a great segue into the need for affordable housing. So workforce housing, here's a quick overview of where we're going tonight. Cover a little bit of what have we done. Who's lived here for less than 2 or 3 years? It's a pretty big chunk. So definitely want to give you some overview, and I'm in that category too. Give some overview of what's been done, because there's been a lot working on this issue, so you get some history. What other resort communities have done, some really interesting things, where we're at, and where can we go. Okay, so just a little history. Anybody here participated in the housing plan workshops back in 2004 that the Chamber organized? Notice the committee members are all up here sitting in front. Nice job, guys. So we had that, and then there was a report that was issued in July 2014 that really did a nice job of looking at the data and the analysis and what's affordable and what's not. And that report is available on our website. Side pitch to the new website. If you haven't seen it, this is our new website. Thanks to Margot Magnan, who's really done a great job updating our website. If you go up to that about, pull it down, there's projects, and there's a whole bunch of different projects. One of them is housing. A lot of this data we're talking about is on there for you. So if you want to get into the report on the community housing, lots and lots of data, please do. So looking at some ideas of what other communities have done, this is one of my favorites, the tiny house. Who's heard of the tiny house movement? Yeah, so this one on the left, these two on the left is Teton County's just looking at this as a possibility. But they're having land and building code issues, but the price is pretty good. The one on the, those two on the right is in Aspen, and they put it in on their own to help workforce housing. About $100,000 a piece. They put it on a campground. They operated as a KOA in the summer, so they just plugged it in, put it in on our campground during winter. 300 to 500 square feet. The quality is pretty nice. If you look at this picture, there's a great article on this in the online. If you want to see more of the pictures. High-end stuff. I laughed because when they said it's 500 square feet, the base is 300 square feet. There's 2 lofts. They're 100 square feet each, with 4 feet ceilings. So I don't count that. Just full square footage. This was another project, Copper Mountain in Summit County. This one gives you this little idea of what it built, what it costs. It is deed restricted, and they have income restrictions and appreciation caps. This was funded by the resort as part of their workforce housing commitment. So, as you know, some communities have a requirement as you develop work, you have to put an X number of housing units for workforce housing. So this is one of the developments they did as part of that. This was in Truckee. Little stats on this: pretty affordable rents. This is part of their downtown expansion. This was done with the town and an affordable housing developer. The important thing is their funding came from a housing credit and grant funding, so kind of a nonprofit grant funding and also government requirements. So then, and I think the key thing about those other communities, and there's a lot more in that community report, is there are so many different ways and options you can try to fund affordable housing. There's a real estate transfer tax, which we cannot do, that's unconstitutional in Montana. There's a document recording fee that's done in some communities, and that went to affordable housing. There's taxes on construction, requirements on developers, many different requirements and ways to fund and require affordable housing. Unfortunately, though, for us as a non-incorporated community, many of those options aren't available, but it's good to think about the good ideas. So then after that report, we worked and got a grant to look, and they actually, this report was in 2015, also on our website. It was a community block planning grant, looked at actual potential sites in Big Sky, really analyzed them all, came up with a few of the top ones, and had some housing designs. So again, that's on the website if you'll look at that. And just going back up real quick, the first report, the recommendation was that we need about 200 to 300 units over the next 10 years with a third owned and 2/3 rentals. So it just kind of gives you an idea of where we're headed. Okay, this is my favorite slide from the report, because it really helps understand the different buckets we're dealing with when we're talking about workforce housing. So the first bucket, which I think we're most familiar with, is really the seasonal working and different provisions for that. And in general, the report's recommendations are that generally should be a private housing solution. It makes sense, it's the employer, they can control it, it's their benefit. And then on the other side, you've got the other 2 buckets, which are more the community housing solution. And you've got rental and ownership. So, for example, you've got different workforce, you've got community workforce, teachers, firemen, police, etc. The one important thing to think about is in our community, teachers, the school cannot, they are prohibited from providing housing for teachers. So while this may be a good solution for businesses, we've got to find solutions to keep teachers and other professionals in our community. The other thing we have heard a lot about from talking to different employers and people in our community is the need for middle management, young professionals, that demographic of finding housing for them. So that could be in either the rental or the ownership, but that's an important part we're really seeing a need for. Okay, this is fun. What are we already doing? And it's quite a bit. We just did sort of an informal survey. We called people, talked to them, and said, what are you already doing? So, an award. The Big Sky Resort has the highest number of seasonal beds they provide for their workers. 450 beds, 1,700 winter workers, and 1,000 in their summer workforce. And 320 Ranch, this was really impressive. They house almost 90% of their employees. Smaller, obviously, less beds, but quite a few. So they get the award for highest percentage of employers covered. employees in Hillsborough. And this was just another, like I said, informal sample of others, the percentage of employees they're already housing, and then on the left you can see in the parentheses the number of beds. And this is a variety of owned and rented. It's actually pretty interesting. It's a wide variety. We have more details on that. We can talk about more, but I just wanted to give you a quick snapshot of all that our employers are already doing. When we were in Helena at the beginning of January, at the Chamber of Commerce Days, one of the legislators said, well, government should not be providing workforce housing at all. He said businesses should take care of that. I said, you know, we're already really doing a great job on businesses working on this, but we can't do everything. We need to find some solutions to help to make this work. And especially like we talked about that those community professionals that don't have an incentive from an employer to provide housing. And again, this is mostly seasonal. So also the distinction between seasonal and year-round.
Brett, can I just point out that list is not intended to be represented as complete?
Oh, no, thank you. Non-statistical, this is just a data point to consider. We just called around and got some information. We've got a lot of data back up for you if you want it. But yeah, there's a lot of other employers. And frankly, some people didn't have time to respond. It's a busy time of year. We totally understand that. So it's just a point to give you some clarity. This is a little bit more about what Big Sky Resort is doing and where their housing is and the expansion. When we get to Q&A, Brian Miller has agreed to talk and give us a little more details about where this is going. I'm really very excited about this. So this is up the Mountain Campus, and this is down at Golden Eagle. You guys can see that. So where the current Golden Eagle is, and then some proposed building around there. So like I said, when we start in the Q&A, we'll have Brian explain that a little bit more. Because I think that, you guys can correct me, but I think that parcel was one of the selected parcels in one of the reports about the best places to do workforce housing. And then the Whitewater too. And this is a really important point. A lot of the employers provide transportation, whether it's a bus pass, gas money. As you know, transportation and housing are so closely linked on this, so we're trying to find solutions. We have to look at both. This is part of the reason why. This is the data we've got. So 83% of our workers leave our community every night. So that means all their paychecks are going. So this is not just, no, they don't all want to live here, I understand that. But some of them do. And as far as the chamber and trying to build our community and build our economic base and try to extend our hours for the shoulder seasons and where our restaurants are open longer, this is an economic issue when you've got people leaving so much instead of staying and being part of the community and spending here. So, okay, back to our three buckets. We talked about seasonal, and then we're looking into rentals and ownership. And so now we're going to have Brian Geyer's going to come up and talk a little bit about the Big Sky Community Housing Trust.
That clause is for you, bud. All right, my name is Brian Geyer. I am the Community Development Manager for HRDC and also the Acting Director for the Big Sky Community Housing Trust. And a lot of people are kind of a little unsure about what is the Big Sky Community Housing Trust. And essentially, it's an organization that exists at the moment underneath the umbrella of HRDC, and in the future will operate as its own functioning 501c3 nonprofit with a local board of directors. As it stands now, we have an advisory committee, Heather Budd, who's with Highline Partners, but also on the Resort Tax Board, Sarah Gaither, who is the director of the Big Sky Food Bank, and David Kack, who's with the Western Transportation Institute, but also with Skyline. The Big Sky Community Housing Trust has been tasked, and it was created with, again, a $1.05 million award from the Resort Tax Board. And we've been tasked with the development of affordable housing, stewardship of those affordable homes once they're built, and I'll kind of touch on this in a little bit, and advocacy for affordable housing and the Big Sky community. And when I say development of affordable housing, I mean both rental and ownership. And kind of, I'll touch on that in a second as well. But our initial project, and I'm sure a project that everybody has heard about, is on the Bow parcel. And it is called the Bow, Big Sky Community Subdivision. Here's one of the first renderings of the project. And this really came about as a response to a very generous donation from Lorna Bow of a parcel of land for us to build on. So I come from Park City. I've been in the affordable housing development world for quite some time, and I can tell you that donations like what we received here in Big Sky are rare, very rare. And so really, the fact that we're going with an ownership program first is just a response to the fact that we have land to build it on, and ownership is kind of the first, one of the first ways to kind of address the housing need here in Big Sky. So a lot of people have been contacting me about, there's a lot of interest in applying for these homes, as you can imagine. And I want to first make clear, everyone in the community is welcome to apply for these. These are not being built solely for teachers or firefighters or police officers or anything like that. There is no specific group that these are being built for. These are open to the general public, and I encourage everyone to apply, because it's really a three-step process. It's relatively simple to get to apply for the Bow Big Sky Community Subdivision. Step one, we want everybody who applies for the housing to attend the homebuyer education course. The next one is being held here in Big Sky on March 28th. That will be a prerequisite for being put into the applicant pool for this project. It's 2 4-hour classes. Again, on March 28th is the next one. You'll be required, in order to get to step 2, you'll be required to bring your certificate of completion of homebuyer education with you. Step 2, there are some threshold requirements. And really, this is a response from HRDC, because we want to be very responsible with these homes. We don't want to put anybody into a home who does not have the financial capacity to maintain payments on that home, because the worst thing we could do with our initial effort at providing affordable housing in Big Sky is have a whole lot of foreclosures and put people into a situation that they cannot maintain. So there are some threshold requirements that are financial. First is you can come with a pre-approval letter, not a pre-qualification letter, from a lender saying that you've qualified for this loan and you have your pre-approval letter. Or you can bring a pre-qualification letter. You need a minimum credit score of 650, a debt-to-income ratio of